All right, here we are. We're back with Tom Massey. And Tom, talk about though a CEO like myself. You and I've talked about the typical tenure of a CEO, but what about even executives, young executives that maybe just kind of in cruise control?
Oh yeah, yeah, it happens.
How do we avoid that good to great thing we're talking about, but how do we avoid just kind of cruising?
It happens. It happens to the best of us, and um, the best way I've figured out to do this is at least annual, but probably a little more than that. Some serious self-reflection on what you intend to do for the next year that is informed by talking with, if you're a CEO, your board. If you're not a CEO, we're talking to your supervisor. I get those awful calls sometimes when a board will say, "We need to talk to you about our CEO," or a CEO call and say, "I need to talk to you about my program director and everything." In almost every case, they did not have regular reflection and discussion points. The worst thing is to be surprised by this, Cam, and you don't want to be surprised. So whether they want to, again, if you're a CEO, go to your board and say, "I want to have not the typical kind of review. I want to talk to you about how I'm leading this why, not just what I'm doing, but how I'm doing it." I can't emphasize this enough. It's just incumbent on you as a CEO to do that. And if you're a staff member, if you're a program director, go to your boss and say, "I'd like a review." And again, this has nothing to do with pay it's just, I want to know how I'm doing. How do you think I'm doing? I want my bad news early and often. We all need friends and mirrors, right? And most people get into their little work deal, and before you know it, they are just cruising through. They think, especially if things are going well, right? You just will.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll just do what I did last year. It worked last year. No, pause and reflect. I'm a big fan of taking a little annual retreat. That could be a couple of hours at Starbucks, but sit there and reflect on the last year and what you need to do. But getting that input from the people above you, critical, critical, critical.
Even would you say that's even advice for a branch exec that doesn't feel like he's getting deep review? You know what I mean? That wants a little bit more feedback, or the associate executive?
Let me go on record here, and I'll take all the hate mail to Tom at triangle2.com. I think branch exec is one of the toughest positions we have. You're not the CEO. You're not a program delivery person. You're in the middle. I'm glad you mentioned that first. If you're a branch exec, just demand reviews with, if you have an operations person or CEO, yes, or an associate exec, just say, "I insist on an annual review time." And again, don't make it paper and pencil. Just talk. Just talk about, how do you think we're doing? What could I do better? And it's critical, Ken. It's not important. It's critical.
What are your thoughts though on taking critical feedback
Yeah.
for that young person when it is maybe negative or pointed or directed, however you want to, the adjective we want to use?
Expect it first. Expect it. I'm going to hear things that's not comfortable, but boy, that's when you want to hear it in that safe environment. Just expect it. Unless you're unbelievable, Superman or Superwoman, they're going to say, "Here's some things you could do better," and you go, "Thank you very much." And also, without don't think you're being too defensive. You say, "Oh, maybe you didn't understand why I made that decision or why I did that." That's a good. It's such a healthy debate that
Yeah.
we avoid. And again, I hate to do another book, but we were really close with Pat Lencioni, who wrote Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And we've done Five Dysfunctions of Team with probably 200 YMCAs. The dysfunction that is most prevalent in YMCA staff is avoiding conflict. We avoid, and the truth is, embrace it, run toward it. And it stings a little bit. That's better than getting fired or being. Cam, I'm glad you said it. Really is not getting fired. You get complacent.
That's it. That's it.
Complacent.
Ja- Jasmine's a great athlete. Husband's a coach. I hope you get the quote. What do great players want to happen, Jazz?
Wait, what?
What do great players want?
Well, they want to win. I don't.
Feedback.
Talking
No,
about
they
great
want to
players
be coached.
and
Coach.
coached
Great
how?
players want to be coached. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It broke up on me a minute.
Great players want to be coached hard too.
Hard. Coach
Yeah,
And
Saban.
honestly,
Coach
one of the
Saban.
guests a year or so ago on this is Kevin Eastman, who's a longtime NBA coach, and that's what he said. The great players want to be coached hard. That's what makes them great.
I have several cousins that are NC D1 coaches, and they'll tell you that athletes want to be coached hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to win, that's great advice, Kim, to say, give me the feedback, give it to me.
Yeah. Jazz,
Yeah.
I'll turn to you. I've talked too much.
No. This just segues perfectly into the next question. Um, because, the why is all about heart for people, right?
Mhm. Right.
Obviously serving our community, outreach. And I think one of our greatest privileges is getting to reach the people right in front of us and raise up leaders raising leaders, right?
Absolutely.
So how can we create a culture where leaders, especially the experienced who are, combating burnout, but how can they stay engaged, not out of obligation, but out of love? Cam and I are always talking about lead with love, and a love that is driven by like a passion to invest deeply in them and care for them and raise up the next generation of leaders.
Yeah, it seems like you used a great word in there, is a passion. My work is hard work, especially if you're a day camp director on July 5th, right? Or you're a lineman. Is we need skills, we need training, all that, but we have got to kindle that passion. First off, let's don't forget this is fun work. Let's keep it fun. Oh goodness, so many wives have given up on staff retreats and rallies, and let's have fun and let's remember the passion that what we do changes lives. We're not serving hamburgers, we're not fixing air conditioners. While those are great works, we are changing people's lives. And the only hope we have is to tap into passion. I think about this all the time. When you go in and you go to a restaurant and you go to Chick-fil-A, you go to a theme park and then you go to Disney, you go to some coffee shop and you go to Starbucks. Those people love what they do. They're not watching the clock. Yeah, the benefits are great and all that stuff, but passion, you use the word, and I want to hammer on that. Let's find our passion. This is too hard to work and we don't get paid enough to do it for any other reason. The other stuff, yeah, let's get training and let's get developed and all, but I want a job that sucks me out
Yeah.
from the sheets every morning, right? That I can't wait to
Yeah.
get to work.
So you used the word development, um, and you've had a long career with the Y. You've had a long career outside the Y as a consultant, probably equal time. Looking from the outside in, and maybe just as in a society, what's the biggest people development gap out there?
Yeah. Um, that's another really good question. Just a quick story. I was in India recently and met with the head of the India YMCA. Jasmine, did you know there are more YMCA's in India than there are in the United States?
Would have never said that.
By far, every little time.
Wow.
And the secret to their success is they're always developing people to be a leader. When they have the national executive asked me, said, is it true in the US that you folks would hire a non-YMCA person to be CEO? I went, is it true? We do it all the time. He couldn't fathom that. And the reason was they did the hard work of building a pyramid. They start at the base and say, we want to get you, if you want to go all the way to the top. And they're constantly thinking about developing leaders. And what is that aspect? It is about leadership. I mean, about decision making at a high level, not just executing, but how do you make decisions at a high level? When they have a CEO vacancy, they'll have 10 YMCA leaders ready for that job. And if we could just think like that, we'd say, and again, some people want to be an aquatics director or youth sports director for all their life. God bless them. We need them too. But most people want to say, how do I get to that next level? Keeping that idea of a pipeline in and developing people at that. Again, skills, I'm not undermining what's matter, the skills part, but what about passion, we just said, but also the ability to lead others, the ability to lead others, to coalesce a group. That's what leaders do. We conceptualize where I want to go. How do I get from here to there? And then we rally people around that and invite them on the team. That's leadership development. And
Yeah.
we've not, in a federated organization too, it's up to the local Y. I mean, don't just say, oh, it's YUSA. No,
Yeah.
you can't blame YUSA on this one. Is what am I doing to develop my people toward that leadership level?
Yeah. I'm blessed that I had people that poured into me early in my career and throughout my career,
We all did, Kim. There are people that have dozens of leaders that came from their leadership. They're now leaders today. And if we could be intentional about that, it'd be a great thing.
Yeah. It's funny. On a call Tuesday earlier this week, somebody asked me who some of my mentors were, and I reeled off about 3 CEOs who were neighboring CEOs that just helped me in my career. That they were the people I called, and that spent time with me and coached me through issues, and I'm just thankful that I've had those people in my life. So
Let me put a finer point on this, being very specific. If you're a leader at a local Y, CEO, or really anybody, even if you're a day camp director, no, I am not minimizing the skills and the science and stuff, but spend some of that fun time. We just stopped getting together. We're so grinding about it, but have a retreat, have a Sunday afternoon, do something to invest in people and learn about what their family's like and what their goals are. That's what's going to help us win. And that's what's gotten us to where we are today.
yeah,
Relationships.
that's part of the career.
Yeah.
So kind of close up on this, Tom, looking at it from a lot of sides, in your career, what's your hope for the future of the Y movement?
I'm glad you asked me that one because I do have a hope. Like I said, I'm a lifer, and I'm going to invest in the Y until the day I die, and then leave money to the Y. So it's going to happen. And I was recently, the national executive Suzanne asked me to meet with 60 YMCA CEOs. This was last October, different size Ys and everything. And I said, let's talk about what if. What could we do as a movement? I mean, that was the whole structure of it. And I was so fired up about that because the notion of what can we do as a collective came through. YMCAs are locally autonomous. God bless that. That's great. We're grassroots. But think of the power. We are too often overlooked as a real force for good in this country. With 24, 25 million members, few people could have the collective impact. And again, this is not easy because we're a federation. But that day we talked about if we all got together, we agreed on a few things, we could make a big difference. I have an example that I was involved with. Well, it started with a great Y leader named Ron Kinnaman, who I got to work for, and I love Ron. He said, Tom, let's come up with some values that we can all agree with. Now that's daunting, isn't it? You got, Alabama to Seattle, right? But we did it. We forced ourselves, and everybody wanted us to have 12. We had four character development values. And the first year we had a 90% compliance rate. It was something that we all agreed on. We all measured the same things. We called them the same. We even had the same colors. And again, people say, oh, we're a federation, but we did that together, and think of the impact. In fact, I do get to see a lot of international Ys. I was in a small town in Egypt, right? Not Egypt, Texas, Egypt, right? And on the wall were the four banners of the four character development values. So it had worldwide impact. My hope for the Y is we can find one or two things, not a dozen, that we all say we're going to put aside our petty differences, our geography, our big Y, little Y stuff, say we're all on the same page. And that's going to take courage. We work with a lot of federations, churches, which are locally autonomous. We did some work with Goodwill. There's a good example. Goodwill reinvented themselves. We work with the NAIA, National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. They have 300 colleges that are all independent. But if you can do stuff together, how powerful. And if we could do things as a movement, one or two things, talk about it the same way, measure it the same way, think of the impact we could have. So that's my hope for the future.
Man, that's great. And I love that sometimes we have to sacrifice a little bit of our own personal agenda to do what's good for the worldwide movement, or for the movement of the greater good for everybody. So Tom, you're a great leader. I do appreciate your time. We're going to work to get you at some of my meetings and keep you involved. And Tom's always been available to me by phone call. Every time sometimes I'll say, how do I do this? Or what question should I ask? You've been receptive, and I appreciate that. And so thanks for taking time with us on Take 10. Remember, leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about showing up with courage and compassion and consistency. We want you to lead with love, and we want to encourage and inspire and motivate your leadership. If you enjoyed this, share part 1 or part 2 with your team. Let it create discussion, and kind of the meat of this thing. Get with your boss and say, hey, give me some critical feedback. I want to be better. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Jazz.
Thanks so much.